CR101radio.com, podcasts, and more.
28. Adoption. August the 21st, 1956. Good morning, friends. One of the most glorious doctrines of Scripture is the doctrine of adoption. It is difficult to understand why more attention is not given to a fact so magnificent in its implications for man. It defines the Christian's relationship to God. The natural relationship of all men to God is that of creatures, created in God's image, but nevertheless essentially creatures. The Bible gives no real foundation to the common belief in the universal fatherhood of God. Rather, it speaks of only one natural Son of God, the only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. The doctrine of adoption into sonship is the great New Testament addition to the plan of salvation and the constant source of joy to the apostles. Verse after verse speaks of this great privilege. Having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Jesus Christ to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Ephesians 1:5. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Galatians 4:4 and 5. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. John 1:12. No mature understanding of the meaning of salvation is possible without this doctrine. Dr. Gordon C. Clark has well defined the significance of adoption by a simple illustration. If a state governor pardons a criminal who has been guilty of very serious crimes, his act of pardon by no means gives the criminal a clean bill of health for all subsequent activities. The man is, after all, still capable of further criminal activities and still subject to further sentence and judgment. Nor does he go a step further and receive the criminal into his household as an adopted son. But this is precisely what God does. Salvation begins with the great and glorious fact of forgiveness of sins. But this forgiveness, our justification, whereby Christ's perfect obedience and full satisfaction is imputed to us and received by faith, is a judicial act, and does not change our nature of itself, but for the fact that God's justification includes justifying faith, the fruit of regeneration. We are given a new nature, are born again, and this means that our forgiveness is accompanied by a changed nature, so that we now see God's face instead of fleeing from him. This new nature is then seen to work out its calling under God, and this is sanctification. But in addition to this, God receives us into his own household as adopted sons, a privilege which can never be reversed or annulled, which makes of us heirs of all God's creation, providential care and future glory, and gives us the glory of being partakers of the divine nature. Adoption gives us a new name, God's name, so that our hearts cry out to him through the Spirit, saying, Abba, Father. Adoption gives us the protection and care of children of a perfect and omnipotent Father. Adoption gives us, moreover, the privilege of discipline and chastisement by a loving and all-wise Father. To some, this may seem a strange privilege, but actually it constitutes one of the central privileges of sonship. Apart from him, we suffer without meaning and cruelly under the blows of men and events. With him, we have the confidence that all our suffering works to our good and our glory in him. Adoption, therefore, is the fullness of our salvation, the full manifestation of the glorious liberty of our salvation. In brief, it is, in the words of the Westminster Divines, Westminster Larger Catechism, Answer 74. Adoption is an act of the free grace of God in and for his only Son, Jesus Christ, whereby all those that are justified are received into the number of his children, have his name put upon them, the Spirit of his Son given to them, are under his fatherly care and dispensations, admitted to all the liberties and privileges of the sons of God, made heirs of all the promises, and fellow heirs with Christ in glory.